Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to this session of academic counseling of the Masters in Distance Education as well as the Postgraduate Diploma in Distance Education program. This class is on MDE 412, which is on instructional design. I'm Professor Anita Priyadarshini, and I'll be your course coordinator for this course. And we will have a total of 8 sessions in which this course will be covered. And I will be with you on every Tuesday for 2 hours, which is India time 3 to 5. And we will try to cover all the difficult points or of this course of MD 412. You are most welcome to ask me questions. I will tell you which parts of the course I'm going to take in the session so that you can come prepared for that. Or if you have any difficulties, you can also tell us through the medium of the LMS or even in the previous class, you can sort of tell me that this is what we would like to hear about or learn about. And I'll be happy to do that. Before we start, I'd just like to know a little bit about yourselves because we had an induction program, but we were not able to have that kind of a personalized interaction since there were almost 80 people in the induction program. So a little bit about yourself. If any of you can just tell me what you're doing. Are you teaching? Are you working? What kind of work you're doing? And then we will start the class because 8 classes is a long time and I'd like to know each of you. Any one of you can just sort of tell me a little bit about yourselves. Mr. Haruna.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning.
Yes, my name is Jibran Haruna Abba. Yes, I'm a teacher.
Where are you
I
from?
study English from Nigeria. Thank you. I teach
Nigeria,
junior classes.
okay.
And, yes, in one of the secondary school here. I've been teaching for 5 years now.
Secondary.
Almost in the 6th year now.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
So I studied English earlier in my bachelor degree. And I was looking forward to improve myself, taking my work, my teaching maybe online or any other access, maybe
Lovely.
opportunity I could get
Very nice.
from this program.
Okay. So anyone else who'd like to tell me about themselves? I know some of you. Yes, Wilson. Yes, Wilson Shaba.
Yes, my name is Wilson. I'm from Malawi. I am working as a learning support teacher, special education needs teacher. I studied Bachelor of Education in Special Needs from the Catholic University of Malawi. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So what about Angela? Just tell me which country you're from also.
Hi, Professor. Hi, everyone. I am Angela from Mauritius. And I work at a university and where we have shifted mostly to blended learning. So I'm here to learn more about how I can improve at my workplace and help my students to learn better, and also for me to learn better how to implement those resources in my teaching. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. McLean. Turabi.
Okay, my name is McLean Tuliahaver. I am a teacher of English language and literature in English. I've been teaching for 8 years. I come from Uganda. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Moses.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moses.
Good morning, Ma, and good morning to everyone. My name is Moses Sunday. I'm from Nigeria. I am a school owner. I own a private nursery and primary school here in Nigeria, which I'm currently managing. I'm here to be able to improve on my knowledge and to be able to effectively run the school and also to excel in the
So
activities
you own the school, Mr. Moses? You own the school, Mr. Moses?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's very
Yes,
interesting.
ma'am.
Very interesting. Very
Yes,
interesting. Okay, what about Mr. Morris? Songa?
So,
Mr. Morris Songa?
ma'am, I didn't get you.
Mr. Abu Bakar?
Hello, Mr. Ma.
Mr. Abu Bakar?
Hello, Mrs. Sa. Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Ma. Good morning, Ma.
Good
Hello,
morning.
good morning. I'm Abu Bakar Attai, I was from Nigeria.
Where are you from, Mr. Abu Bakar? Okay, I think. And what about
Hello, Ma.
Mr. Buhari?
Hello.
Hello, good morning, ma.
Good morning.
My name is Buhari Ibrahim from Nigeria, and I'm a teacher in International Center of Islamic Culture and Education in Nigeria, Abuja. And I'm an Arabic teacher, as I said. I'm here to improve my knowledge and how to implement those knowledge to my teaching job, especially Arabic language. Thank you, ma.
Good morning. My name is Anas Ahmad from Jigawa State, Nigeria. I have finished my study from Bayero University, Kano, and I am very, very well happy for giving me school in Indira Gandhi Online University. Thank you, ma.
Good morning, madam.
We are not
Mr.
hearing
Morris?
you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, madam. Yes. Good morning.
Okay, yes, Mr. Morris. Good morning.
I'm Songa Morris from Zambia. I'm a teacher by profession, secondary school teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Noura.
Good morning, ma. My name is Noura Saba Haruna. I'm from Nigeria. I'm also a teacher by profession. I'm a lecturer in Saada Churimi College of Education now. And I applied for this program to improve my profession and want to have more experiences about the distance learning and want to learn from other professions in other countries and meet a lot of people by experience and professions. So this is my...
Which country are you from, Mr. Noura? Which country are you from?
From Nigeria, living in Kano State.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you, ma'am.
And what about Mr. I think Mr. Burari has spoken. Mr. Zebidi. Zebidi?
Good morning. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes.
I'm Kaunda Zebedi, coming from Zambia, in Kawambwa. My inspiration for this program is to become a distance educator. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Buhari has spoken. Anyone else who would like to introduce themselves? Of course, for me. And what about Mr. Abdullah? I think Mr. Abdullah Sanusi.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, Ma. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abdullah Sanusi from Nigeria. I'm a monitoring and evaluation officer with Wakot Rice Limited. Thank you.
Oh, is that a private company?
Yes, it's a private company.
Okay, great. And then we have Mr. Najatu Abdullah. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yes. Good afternoon, Ma.
Oh. Yes,
My
madam.
name is Najatu Abdullah from Nigeria. I studied Bachelor of Education in Biology, and I work with Women Initiative for Sustainable Community Development, a private organization. We do most of humanitarian services. And I'm glad for giving an opportunity to study in IGNO, the People's University. I look forward to interacting with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's very interesting that you work with women and you are doing a course which is very useful for, or rather through a distance education, which is really very useful for women. Anyone else who would like to introduce themselves? Okay, so I think there are still people joining in, but I think we can start and we'll proceed, because this kind of an introduction which is being done is, of course, to introduce so that I get to know you, but it is also important that you all also get to know each other, because for the next 3 months, most of you will be in class with each other. So it is a good way to break the ice and to know each other. And if you have, I believe that the regional center has already developed a WhatsApp group for you all. So in that WhatsApp group also, you can find out, or you can communicate with each other, which is important. So now what we are doing is that this class is basically about Masters in Distance Education, which has a course which is MD 412, which is on instructional design. And you will see that the courses of this program are such that they deal with a particular aspect. And this aspect of instructional design is very important, because it sets the tone for the for how you will design your curriculum, how you will develop materials, because as we know that distance education is dependent a lot upon the course materials, the printed self course materials, because they are the ones that serve as a teacher in print. You do not have a teacher with you, and you're not in the same space, either geographically or even in terms of time. And therefore, the instructional material is the medium by which the communication between the teacher and the learner takes place in distance education. Having said that, it's also therefore important to understand that the way in which the material is designed is different from that of a usual textbook, which is done, which is which is supported a live teacher. If there's a face-to-face class going on, then a textbook supports this. But in this case, when we are talking about distance education, it is the master medium which is there. And of course, today, in the self-learning material in the printed form is also supported by e-material, digital content, by videos, by audios. But earlier on, when distance education started, this was the master which was used by teachers to communicate about any course in that was whether it was biology, whether it was chemistry, whether it is history or geography. Each course has its own self-learning material. In IGNOU, we have so many courses, and each of them has its own self-learning material. And therefore, if you want to be a distance teacher or an educator, you need to know how to design material, how to design instruction, and this course helps you to design that material. Is there something that you would like to say, Mr. Usman? Adamu Usman? Are you raising your hand for me to say something? Okay, so we'll just proceed. Maybe by mistake, the button is pressed. And in this course on instructional design, you will see that instructional design by itself is a very, very dynamic field. It's dynamic because instructional design forms a kind of a blueprint, and that blueprint helps you to apply the principles of learning, and it gives you a guide as to how theoretical matters are going to be linked with practical matters, how the physical classroom changes into another kind of classroom, whether it is a digital classroom, depending upon the mode in which it is being developed. It is also important because as a teacher, and I can see that many of you, when you introduce yourselves, you said that you were teaching either in a secondary school or in another kind of primary school or higher education. But for teachers, it is very important to understand how the plan of teaching is going to take place. How is it that the activities, the processes, the reflection, the evaluation, how is it that is going to take place? And all that, it becomes a part of the instructional design, and understanding of instructional design, irrespective of whether you are in the level of school, doesn't matter. Important thing is that you should be able to design your classroom, design your materials well, so that the ultimate goal is achieved. And in this particular course, as I told you on the day of the induction also, that we have 5 blocks, and in those 5 blocks, we will go from trying to understand what is learning and instruction, which is going to be in the first block. You will also learn about what are the theories of instructions, which are very important, because without understanding the theories of learning, understanding the theories which guide instruction, it is important to understand what these foundations of learning are, so that you are able to better understand the course and go ahead. And there is also an aspect of understanding the theoretical models. As I said, we have in the second block, you have the theoretical models which are going to be explained, and you will understand what kind of models there are, so that you are able to apply them in your work, in your classroom and in your work. And the third block is on processes, because when you talk about instructional design, then you have to understand what is the way in which the strategy, the process that you will follow, that is going to be done in the block 3. In the fourth block, we are talking about the actual practice of instructional design, which is where you will learn how to do, if you're supposing you're a trainer, then how do I design my training plan? How do I design the instruction which I'm going to give through the training? On the other end, if you are a distance teacher, then how do I design the materials in distance education? These are all practical aspects of the design and development of which will be taught in this course. And the last part is on understanding what is today very important aspect of portfolio, because a portfolio gives you the knowledge and the skills to actually demonstrate your work, what kind of work you have done. You may have seen that in the earlier days, you had artists would be carrying their little bag, and they would be carrying all their drawings, their best drawings they would be carrying, because they would showcase them in that. In the same way, today in the world, being able to show what you have done. It's very important. Even if you go for a job, they'll ask you, what's your portfolio? So you must have your portfolio where you are able to show these kind of works. So this is a little bit about the course that we are going to talk about. What is it that you will do in the course over the next 8 sessions? And as I said, that the plan is that we will take up, there are 22 units which are there in the course, but it will not be possible to teach each unit. So we will take up areas of the units which will help you to understand the course. In case there is any particular thing that, or any particular topic that you would want us to do, you can put it up through the LMS or through the WhatsApp group, and the communication will reach me, and I will accordingly make that presentation. Now, any questions on this, or should I proceed? There are still some students who are being admitted, so I'm simultaneously doing that. So today I'm just putting up my PPT so that you can see the PPT, and then you can tell me whether you are able to see it. Just a moment, there is somebody else who wants to be admitted. Please let me know if you are able to see the PPT, and then once it comes on. Are you able to see it?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Is
okay,
it coming
we can
on?
see it now. I can see it now.
Okay. You can see it now? Right. So,
Yes.
Clear? Fine. So let us then start this first part of it. First part, this is block 1, which is on foundations of learning. And in that first part, we are talking about learning and instruction. This class today is about learning and instruction. And in this class, when we're talking about learning and instruction, what we are going to talk about is the session summary I'm putting before you. We will speak about what is learning, and then next thing will be trying to understand what is instruction, and being able to distinguish between what is learning and what is instruction. This will be followed by approaches to learning, and then we will introduce learning theories and their educational implications. Subsequently, learning theories will be dealt in detail. Subsequently, in this block only, you will see the learning theories, but we'll do a little bit of introduction of these learning theories. So now I have put a picture before you, which has 3 photographs. Can you see them? Are you able to see the 3 photographs?
Yes, we can see them.
Yes, we can see it.
So then what is happening in these photographs? What do you think is happening in these photographs?
Learning is taking place. We have seen students
because my class is interactive.
learning something
Yes.
using computer.
Communication going on.
Communication going on. Okay.
Well,
what else is?
I see students in a classroom using ICT. Those are computers. In the other, I see
so
there is a teacher.
one photograph.
Or
yes, Ms. McLean, one photograph only. Let's only one. Then next, who else is? Ms. McLean says it's children who are with a computer in front of them. And let's see what somebody else is saying. Someone else, please.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. What do you see?
Okay. Also from the picture, I can see that learning is lifelong, because I can see some elderly ones also learning. So it helps us understand the concept that education is from life to death. So it's lifelong.
Wonderful. Very nice. What else?
Thank you.
Yes.
What about the third photograph? What is happening in the third photograph?
In the third photograph, I can see a teacher teaching the students in a classroom.
Classroom. Yes. Anyone else? Any other comments to be given by anybody? So there are three photographs.
We can see the three different photographs. They show different aspects of communication, in the sense that on the left-hand side, we see children communicating with technology. And then on the top one, we can see there's two persons. There's a kind of interpersonal communication going on. And then on the third one, we see one teacher teaching to a group of students. So there are different kind of communication going on.
Okay, I'm hearing the word. Is that Angela? Is that Angela's? So,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm hearing Miss Angela talk about communication going on, and I also heard the word lifelong going on, and teacher. So these are all, when you look at these photographs, you'll find that these are all different ways in which there is some activity going on. We don't know for sure whether it's learning, but yes, for sure, there is some activity which is going on here. And we'll try and see later during the class whether these photographs are about learning or whether they are about interaction or what is it, because through these three photographs, we want to understand what exactly is learning. What exactly you have used these words like, which I talked about, communication, lifelong, teacher. So what exactly is learning? What do you think is learning? From photographs, or what is it that is learning? How would you describe learning? Because many of you said to me during the introduction that we are teachers.
Yes, madam.
But now you are learners. Now
Prof.
we are talking about learners.
I've a comment. I have a comment, Prof.
Sorry?
I have a comment on those pictures that are there, that are displayed.
Yes, please comment. Yes, please go ahead.
I've seen different types of learning. I've seen face-to-face where the teacher is in class, physically teaching. Then I've seen those elderly people. It's like they are learning on using a gadget. Then some pupils also, they are also learning using a gadget. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. So you can see that there is some activity which is going on. One moment, somebody is wanting to enter. Yeah. So there is some learning which is going on, and we are talking about that. We are talking about that learning which is there. So let's discuss what is learning, and then let's try to see what learning is actually written as. When we speak of the definitions of learning or an understanding of learning, we talk about it as learning being something where it brings about a change in a person's knowledge and behavior due to experience. Is this change temporary? No, it is permanent. When we are talking about learning, we are talking about a permanent change which comes it. You will appreciate that when you try your hand at anything, maybe it is riding a cycle. You will first fall, you will try to get onto a cycle, you might fall, you might drive in a crooked way, You might not be able to brake at the right time. You might discover that you don't know how the cycle. You might start pedaling backwards and realizing that cycle is going back. But once you have learned to ride a cycle rather, it is something where you say, I know how to cycle. I've learned cycling. And and really somebody who learns cycling once can never forget it all their lives. If you learn it as a child, you'll remember it. Even at any age, if you sit on a cycle, you'll be able to cycle. That is because there is a permanent change in the way in which you have learned how to ride a cycle. If you do maths, you learn calculations, you learn your tables, you might forget them. But at that point of time, you have learned them. Similarly, if you learn how to knit, if you learn how to sew, you learn something, you find that it is a change that comes about in a more permanently. And that is why when we speak of learning, we're talking about learning. Learning is long term. It is not short term. Short term is not really learning, but learning is something which is long term. And also the fact is that learning brings about a change in behavior. Of course, it expands your mind, it expands the knowledge, but more importantly, it brings about a change in behavior, because education, learning is something which helps you to be more progressive, to do something which you didn't know earlier on. But having said that, you learn a new thing, or maybe you learn in different ways also. We'll talk about that, how learning takes place, but we'll talk about that also. But learning is something which enhances your skills, it enhances your knowledge, and it brings about a change in your attitudes, which results in a change in your behavior. As I said, when we speak of learning, it does bring about a change which is long term, not short term, but it is something which is a long term change which takes place. Change can be in content and structure of knowledge, in the memory, or in the behavior. Every time when we, as teachers, we move from one class to the other, we expect that there is some learning which we have inculcated in the minds of the learners, in the knowledge and behavior of the learners. And which is why when we move from one class to the other, whether it is in terms of examination or whether it is in terms of growth of knowledge, we are hoping as teachers that the learners have learned something. Not rote memory, but they have learned something. And because of this, we acquire new experiences and from our learning environment or from our professional environment, and all these simultaneously bring about a change in the behavior of a person. I spoke about the cycle, but can you recall any incident from your childhood or from your life which has brought about a change in your behavior? You think that a change has come about in your behavior, and would you attribute it to learning which has taken place? Remember, we are not teaching in this class, we are sharing our experiences. Do you remember something where you learned something and that changed your attitude, or it brought about a change in your thinking or in a change in your knowledge? Some experience in your life? Yes, Mr. Moses? Would you like to share an experience?
No, actually, I wanted to raise a point. You spoke about learning being a permanent change, and you said it's long term. But actually, I want to understand the concept of unlearning and relearning. If learning is actually a permanent change, then is it possible to unlearn what I've been learned and to relearn again? Because I've had that, and it seems to me that this definition of permanent change seems to contradict that concept of unlearning what has been learned. So I need clarification, man.
When we say, when we talk about learning, we are also talking about unlearning and relearning. Learning, learning learning is not something that is in a straight line. When you're talking about change, you also unlearn that change. And that is why when I'm asking you that, share some experiences, perhaps your learning was also an unlearning. And today there are so many, that is why when we speak about unlearning and relearning in the 21st century, as all of us are going through a period of immense change, and there are so many things that we are unlearning. So therefore, all these terms and unlearning doesn't mean does not unlearning is also a type of learning, by the way. How to unlearn is also a type, or is also a way in which we are learning. So think about it and tell me something that you may have learned and which has brought about a change in your behavior or your attitude. Can you think of something? Yes, Mr. Anas. Mr. Moses Firi, your hand is raised.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Moses. Any experience that you'd like to share with the class?
Yes. I learned something on the sustainable use of resources. And as a result of that knowledge, I have, it resulted into change in my attitudes towards the way I use the resources. One practical way in which I adopted after learning that actually these resources which we consume, they have got an effect on the environment. I've learned to minimize my impact. For example, from the time I learned that, I always look for products which have got minimal packaging, because by so doing, I contribute in a small way to the conservation of the resources in the environment. And I always want to buy those foods which are packaged in reusable containers.
Yes, and I think that's very nicely said. And I think as children, I can see many hands. I'll just take one by one. But as children, I always remember my mother saying, "Don't waste, and don't throw food. Eat everything on your plate." Something as simple as that, which we do, it stays with you forever, and you pass it on down the generations. You talk about it. I'm sure in everybody's homes also this kind of talk is done. Yes, Miss Wilson. Wilson Shaba.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Wilson.
Well, I want to talk about how I learned about how we learn in different ways, and this was a scenario whereby I learned that I'm not just any other learner. I'm a visual learner. Like I learned when I have to see that thing happening, and I've saw that as individuals, we learn in different ways. and that has helped me or changed my approach to teaching as a teacher. As I said, I am a teacher. My approach to teaching, that not every child will learn like the way they are learning. Like every child is unique, and then when you're teaching them, you have to use different methods and approaches. So it started with me learning, and then now I'm teaching my students in different
Wonderful.
ways or using different approaches.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's very important, and we'll talk about the different ways in which learning takes place in a later class. But yes, thank you so much for sharing your experience, Miss McLean.
My experience while growing up, my grandfather would always tell me, when you wake up in the morning, you must greet each and everyone. When you are walking in the road, whoever you meet, it doesn't matter, you must greet them. And that has impacted on my life. Even now, you meet someone, you ask how they are doing, and you proceed with your way. Thank you.
I think that's a beautiful experience to share. That's beautiful experience to share, because that is you see, in the way you have learned it. It's something which stays with you all your life. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. I think there's someone else who wants to speak, and I missed that. Who would like to say something? Of course. Okay. Just one moment. It says somebody's asking me, are we allowed to say something here being media considered? No, no. First and foremost, Mr. Adamu Usman is asking whether we are allowed to say something being a MADL, considering the lectures now for PGTL. Mr. Adamu, and for everybody else who is there, please note that the lecture or the today's session and all these sessions are for both MADEOL and PGDOL, because the course is the same. Mr. Adamu, can you put your camera on so that I can see you, and I can tell you that there is no difference between if there is a question which is being asked that this course is for PGTD or PGDDOL, it is the same for MADE. These classes which are going to take place are the same. Please go ahead and ask your questions. You are as much a part of this class, because whether you are in PGDDOL or MADEOL, it is the same course. All right. I hope that I'm making that very clear to everybody. This is this is a common class. The course is common. There should be no doubt about it that whether you are enrolled in MADE, that is Master's in Distance Education, or Postgraduate Diploma in Distance Education, it is the same course, same class. Okay? So please go ahead and ask your questions, and please interact as possible. So anyone else, or should we just proceed now, please? But I liked your examples. I liked something as simple as what Ms. McLean said about greeting everybody. These are all behaviors that we learn because of this. Okay, so then let's then come to what is the definition of learning. These are very broad definitions, and when we talk of learning, we are talking of it as a constructive process. It is influenced by a person's existing knowledge and beliefs, and is situated in the learner's context. You will learn according to your context. If in your culture there is a particular type of learning, you will learn it, and you will learn it because that is your own context. And learning in terms is sometimes not directly observable, but in fact it is seen in the performance, because how you perform, how you act, how you behave, that is what demonstrates your learning. When we speak of learning, there are some conditions of learning which are talked about. For instance, let's talk about contiguity. Contiguity is, we will talk more about the behaviorist theories of stimulus and response, but what we're talking about here in terms of contiguity is that it is almost like a spontaneous response or to a particular stimuli. What happens is that, for instance, if suddenly you are you're walking down the road, and someone, if I'm walking on the road and someone suddenly shouts, "Anita," it is but almost instantaneously I will turn around and say, "Oh, am I being called?" There may be many other Anitas also, but this is a simultaneous response that takes place, because I have learned that my name is Anita, and if someone calls, then perhaps they are calling me. Similarly, if the bell rings, you will immediately go, because you know the bell is ringing, and you have learned that if the bell rings, bell ring means that you need to open the door. If nowadays what happens is, if we have your mobile and you suddenly hear a ping on it, automatically, this is new behavior which we have all learned. It wasn't there during the time of our parents or grandparents, but this is new behavior which we have learned, because if we hear this sound of the message coming, inevitably your eyes will go to the phone, and this is a behavioral change which we have learned in the 20th century, 21st century. So that is what, because we see that there is a contiguous behavior which takes place when between the stimulus and the response, which we all display. In the same way, when we talk about practice, practice takes place when you find that the same type of response is being given continuously. We repeat the response. Between the stimulus and the response, or let's say at this point of time, if I don't want to use words such as which are behavioral, but between an action that takes place and a response that comes on that action, and if that is repeated, it becomes inbuilt in our senses, and there is a natural and learnt behavior which takes place, and that is also known as practice. And this type of behavior is when it happens continuously, again and again and again. It is being reinforced all the time, and that reinforcements only strengthens the bonds of stimulus and response and makes it into a permanent. You remember in the first slide we talked about learning being a permanent behavior. But in a permanent behavior, it doesn't become permanent overnight. It happens when there is a continuous change which is taking place, and there is repeated behavior which is taking place, and there are some actions which reinforce that kind of a behavior, and therefore we talk about the learning becoming a permanent change. Another part of learning is that of feedback. And as you know, feedback is when you are receiving some comments, or there is some extra knowledge which is coming back because of that action, and therefore you respond in a particular way, you respond in a way, someone tells you that this is not the way, this is not the correct way, or this is how you respond. In distance education, feedback is of course very important, because we are always talking to each other and we are hearing what the other person says, and based upon that we bring about a change. And therefore when we get feedback, our behavior changes because of new learning which takes place because of the feedback that we have got. And you will see yourself in your behavior or in your knowledge, that when you get feedback from someone, you reflect on it, you think about it. Someone tells you simply that this was not the right way to respond to a particular thing. You'll think about it, and maybe you will change, which means that there is some new learning which has taken place, and that is also learning. Similarly, then you have generalization which takes place, because from a particular single action, you realize that this type of an action applies to many more actions. And therefore, from a single action, you go on to a generalized action, and that becomes a standard for you by which you are constantly trying to use that itself. And therefore, it becomes a general. On the other hand, when we talk about discrimination, we find that that there may be a discrimination which takes place because you learn to discriminate. You learn that this behavior is acceptable, this behavior is not acceptable. And therefore, learning takes place when you are also discriminating between two types of behaviors. There may be a positive behavior which you want to make into a generalized behavior. There may be a negative behavior. You realize that this type of behavior is not acceptable, so you discriminate between that. And therefore, we find that learning is, while we say that it is permanent, but in that permanent also, as I said before also, there are things that you are unlearning. There are things that you are relearning. And that in the 21st century, this is the mantra, to be able to distinguish, to be able to discriminate what is acceptable and what is it that will bring about new learning, and how you will adapt to your own learning environments in such things. I think what we'll do is just now, any questions that you would like to ask me at this stage? Anything that you would like to ask me? Okay, so what we are going to do now is that we will take a 5-minute break. It's 4 o'clock, 4 in my watch, it's 3 minutes past 4. So we will take a short break. Please get up, stretch yourself, have a glass of water, and come back. Do not log out. What's the time there for most of you?
11:33.
Okay, 11:33. So that's, I thought, that's good. It's time for a midday cup of tea, I think.
How many minutes are we going to spend?
Okay, so
The
come
min-
back in 5 minutes. Come back in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Can we start again?
Yeah, you are welcome.
Okay, good. Looking a
Yes,
little more, I can see you looking a little more fresh. Okay, great. Sometimes little
start.
breaks are required. Okay, so let's go back then to we were talking about conditions of learning, and now we'll just proceed ahead from there. Any questions, or I shall just move ahead? Okay, so let's look at the after learning about the conditions of learning. Let's now see the approaches to learning. When we speak
A
about
moment,
learning, yes.
Professor.
Sorry.
Please.
Are you speaking to me?
Give me. Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm asking that you give me some more light on contiguity. Please. Thank you.
Contiguity? Okay.
Yes.
So what does contiguity mean? Can you hear me? Contiguity?
Yes, I can.
When we speak, okay. So when we speak about contiguity, contiguous behavior is, in a sense, you can say, not really one after the other, but in response to the other. Behavior which is in response to the other is contiguous behavior. As I said earlier on also, if you hear your name being called, you will respond because you have learned that this is my name and I am going to respond to it when someone calls me. If you hear a doorbell ringing, these are the examples which I gave, and I'm just repeating those. If you hear a doorbell ring, you're at home, you hear the doorbell ring, you will understand, you have learned that the bell means the door has to be opened, maybe somebody has come. We are only talking about the ways in which learning takes place. As a teacher, and as one of the learners said, that as a parent teaches the child that when you go out, you greet everybody. In India, when someone comes, we say namaste. You say good morning, good afternoon, how do you do? Because this is all learned behavior that in response to seeing someone, this is the behavior that you will display. And as in a teaching, in a classroom, there may be in some classes, when the teacher walks in, the children are asked to stand, and or you say out of respect you stand. Now we are not talking about classroom learning, but we are talking about behavioral learning which comes in different contexts. In some contexts, the moment the teacher or an elder comes, it is expected that you stand up, and you teach that to children from a very young age. So it becomes a kind of a behavior. Contiguous means this happens and this is how you respond to it. So this is called contiguous behavior. You can apply that in your classroom also, but we are just now talking about how learning takes place and it reflects in the way in which you behave, because that is the behavioral change which comes about. Okay. We will talk about this more when we actually talk about behavioralism. All right. Anyone else who is, I can see a hand raised by Miss McLean. Is it just like that, or is it you want to ask something?
No, I already asked.
Okay.
I already asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we can go ahead, proceed ahead then. Now we are talking about two other types of behavior. Can you see this? Just a moment, please. Can you see this slide? Can you see deep approach and surface approach?
Yes, ma.
We can
All
see
right,
it.
fine. We can. Okay, fine. Thank you. So we are now talking about approaches to learning, and we are talking about two approaches to learning, which are usually done. And I'm sure all of you are very familiar with this type of approach. About one is the deep approach, and the other one is a surface approach. What is a deep approach? You will find that sometimes uh, maybe there is something wrong with your car, and you try to understand it, and it doesn't help. You keep on understand, you go deeper and deeper, and you want to understand more about it. How do you change a wheel? Why does it work like this? What is the weight? What is the air pressure? How does it work? You try to understand the whole process in as much depth as is possible, because you want to know more and more about a particular task, whether it is related to an academic subject, whether it is related to a skill, whether it is related to an area of your interest. But there is an energy within you and a desire within you to find out more about it, and to to go into the very depth of a particular subject. And that is when we say that you have a deep approach to it. There are many people, and many people on the other end, who just skim the surface. They may appear to know everything about everything, but actually it's just on the surface, because it is something which has been read, maybe on the internet, maybe just on a casual way. It's not something which is deep. They are not specialists in that area. They have heard, read, and maybe in a couple of moments they may even forget. And that is a very, very temporary kind of an approach to learning. Usually you memorize something, and then for the moment you memorize it. Maybe you have to go and make maybe you have to recite a poem in front of when now we're talking about children. In a class, there's a poem that has to be recited. So the child learns the poem, finishes the task, and forgets about it. On the other hand, there may be some learners who will read to remember and go into its depth. And even at a much later stage, they would be able to remember that. They would be able to understand the whole philosophy, know about the poet, know about the life history, know the context in which it was written. So these approaches to learning differentiate between the type of learning there is. And it can be that for some particular areas, you decide to have a deep approach, and for some areas, you find that it's not really important for you to have. So you just read only a little bit or learn on the surface, and you leave it be. But it's important to understand that when we are talking about distance learning, and we are talking about the fact that you are at a distance, and you do not have a teacher 24/7 before you, or you do not have a teacher where you can pick up the phone and call her or something like that. So therefore, you have to decide that, are you going to adopt a deep approach, or are you going to adopt a surface approach? Where is it that you're going to adopt a deep approach, and where is it that you're not going to adopt a deep approach? So as students of learning, you must be able to understand the difference between what is a deep approach and what is a surface approach. Okay, here I've asked for you to give me examples of deep approach and surface approach. Well, what kind of learning approach do you have towards your learning? What type of approach do you have towards your learning? I'd like to hear that. Or maybe towards different things in your learning, with examples, if you can speak about it. Yes, Ms. McLean.
Professor Anita, for personally, I would love to have the deep approach of learning because there you acquire knowledge, you understand the basic elements, and of course, once you have understood something deeply, it is rooted in the mind. So I would go with the deep approach.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, you when you get some knowledge, new knowledge especially, you reflect upon it, you assimilate it because it adds to something which you may know or you may not know, and you definitely reflect upon it and think about it, and that is all part of the elements of what is deep learning. Is there anyone, especially for this course or this program? I sincerely hope that you will all be learners who will be adopting a deep approach to it, not a surface. Yes, are you saying something, Mr.? Um, are you saying
Yes.
something? Please, please.
I'll want to adopt the deep learning approach, and that is because it will help me concentrate on the meaning of what is learned. So for any concept, for every outline of our material, the deep approach will help me concentrate on its meaning, and is really rooted in understanding all the concepts of the topic. So I'll go with the deep learning approach.
Thank you. And also, one must realize that when you are at a course which is a postgraduate course, whether it's a postgraduate diploma or a postgraduate degree course, the fact is that there is a lot of reading that you as a student have to do yourself in order to have a deep approach. Because today we are at a situation where knowledge is available. There is so much of information available that if you want to go into the depth of something, you will be able to have the wherewithal and the means to expand your knowledge. Everything cannot be taught in the classroom. Today, many times when we are having discussions amongst teachers of schools, many of them say that the learners are so well informed. They come to the class, they are well informed. As children also, they are very well, school children I'm talking about, they're very well informed because there is so much of information available and there are so many sources by which learning can be acquired. And therefore, to have a deep approach means that you are able to actually help yourself to learn better. Okay, so let's proceed further. And now let's come to the next part of this class. We've understood learning. We've talked about the conditions of learning. We've also discussed what is the approaches, deep approach and surface approach. So then if we've spoken so much about learning, then what is instruction? What is instruction? What do you think is instruction? So when we speak about learning, we are talking about the learner. And
I
we're
have an
talking
idea
about,
of instruction.
yes. Okay, let's hear it then.
Yeah, instruction is like the content that carries the learning.
Instruction is like
How
the?
do I meant that instruction is what carries the learning. So it details of outline that shows what I'm to learn. That is
How to learn.
instruction.
It details of information that tells me what to learn.
Which tells you how to learn. Okay, now
What
let me
to
hear
learn.
Wilson. What to learn? Okay.
Yes.
I can see Wilson. Wilson has a hand raised. Yes, Wilson Shaba. Yes,
I think
Wilson.
talk the method to teach or learning.
Your net, I think your
Take your time.
network is a little problematic. I can't hear
Oh,
you.
can you hear me?
Maybe you
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Now I can. Yes,
Okay,
please.
I'm saying that when you're looking at learning instruction, you're talking about the learning methods or the learning activities.
You say that you're looking at the learning material.
The
Okay, so
learning
what?
methods. The learning methods.
Okay, so what is? Let me hear what Mr. Habibu Abdullah wants to say.
Yes, ma. Thank you very much, ma. So, what I understand by learning instruction is like detailed guidelines, directives toward the directive toward the what the learner will learn about
What the
the
learner will
content.
learn. Directed towards what the
Yes,
learner will learn.
yes, detailed directives. That is
Okay.
guidelines.
Oh, all right, fine. Guideline, what the learner will learn. And what about Miss McLean? Yes.
Professor Anita, I already commented.
Okay, fine. So your hand was raised, so you can just lower your hand. I'll just try to see if I can do that, but nevertheless. So yes, anyone else? Anyone else wants to? Is anyone else wants to say anything? All right. So yes, in a way, what you are saying is correct. And yes, Anas, you want to say something?
Yes, about an instruction, ma. And this
Yes.
the way I understand instruction is an instance of what we are going to learn.
What we are going to learn?
An instance.
Sorry?
Is an instance of what a learner will
Okay.
learn. Yes.
It's an instance of what the learner will learn.
Yes.
Right? All right. So let's see what instruction is. Let's then go ahead and see what instruction is. What is instruction?
Hello, ma. Yes, ma.
Yes.
Instruction.
Yes.
It's a teaching methodology. It's like a teaching methodology, which
All
a
right.
teacher uses to teach his children and his students.
Absolutely. Spot on. Very nice. Thank you. So instruction is actually a way or a set of events that affect learners such that learning is facilitated. Exactly what was said just now by the last speaker, that what we are trying to do is to make sure that we are creating a deliberate instruction arrangement of learning conditions so as to promote the attainment of an intended goal. What is the goal? The goal, of course, is learning. Goal is that whatever we are trying to teach should be learned. And that is why when we spoke right in the beginning about instructional design, we are all instructors. So many of you are teachers. We are instructors. In our classrooms, in our sessions, in our teaching, we are trying to create a condition by which we are able to achieve a particular learning goal. The goal of this class, which I am taking, is that you should be able to understand what learning is, you should be able to understand what instruction is. And therefore, as a teacher, I will plan my class to have some activities, to have some interaction, to use a PPT, because that is the way in which I am trying to facilitate the learning which is to take place. And my goal, as I said, is that instructional design, MD 412, block 1, learning and instruction should be clear to each of the learners who are part of this academic counseling session. So therefore, instruction basically is, which is what helps us to achieve the learning goal, which is that of in this case, as I said, it is this. When we speak about instruction, it helps us. Just remember this, that it helps you to achieve the goal of learning. That is what we are doing as instructors. That is our job, to make sure that the learners reach the end of the journey of that. Our goal in this entire academic counseling will be that each of you is able to successfully complete the PGDDE or complete the MADE first year, which is the same as PGDDE. And therefore, the entire academic counseling as instructors, that is our goal. You may have a different goal as an instructor. You're in your classroom, you may have a goal which is there. Sometimes the instruction is aimed towards making sure that each of the learners successfully gets good marks in the examination. As teachers, many teachers are told that, look, your students have to show this kind of a end result. So these are all ways and means by which we plan our course, plan our design. When we speak about instruction, I also want to tell you that many times what happens is that there is a mismatch between. Can you see this slide? Can you see this teacher-student mismatch slide?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So many times what happens is that there is a mismatch between what the teacher thinks is a good way to good instructional strategy, and what the student thinks, and what is actually going on in the student's mind in terms of learning. And this slide which I'm showing you is a part of a research which was done by David Noonan. It was called Closing the Gap Between Learning and Instruction. And in this research which was done by Noonan, he tried to understand what is it that the teacher does and how is it that the students respond to that, or what is it that the students think about it. And as a result, what happens is that there is this gap which takes place. And as you can see in this slide, in this research, there were many activities which were taken up. For instance, there was an activity which said explanation to the class. So the teacher thought that if I give explanations to my class, there will be a very high achievement of learning outcomes. Learning outcomes means means that the student is able to understand and is able to demonstrate the competencies at the end of the class. In this case, the teacher thought that if I do conversational practice, maybe in English, if you do conversation practice, it will be a very high conversational practice. In this case, both the student as well as the teacher felt that yes, conversational practice was something which was good and it helped the students. But look at something like using cassettes. In this case, what happened was that sometimes we want to use e-materials, or we want to use multimedia in class. And in this case, this is an old study. So in 1995, cassettes were also still very much a very important part of a multimedia producing. So here the teachers thought that it would be very medium high if I use cassettes, and then my learning arrangement would be achieved and I would be a good instructor. But the students found it very low, even in terms of let's say self-discovery of errors, See the mismatch between low and very high. The teachers thinking that by making the students discover their own errors, I'm doing a great job. But the students didn't find it so. So these type of studies are significant and important because they tell us how when we are trying to make the learning arrangement, which is the instruction, or deliver instruction, then as teachers we may be wrong. We may not be achieving those learning outcomes. We may not be successful in achieving those learning outcomes, and therefore getting feedback at every stage is very important. And which is why even in this class which I am having, you are most welcome to tell me that, look ma'am, this is not working out, we would need this, because that would help us to revise our learning strategy, to revise our instructional strategy, and take it up in a different way. The mismatch is, understanding the mismatch helps to improve, or rather reduce, the gap between learning and instruction. This is why I showed you this research, so that you are able to understand this. And also this is an important part of it, is because in the first slide I showed you, and one of you did talk about, use the word lifelong. Today in the 21st century, we have gone beyond the stage where we are talking about a sequential way of learning. Today, lifelong learning is the mantra. When we are speaking about learning, and I'm sure that most of you are well aware of Goal 4 of the Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 4 is that related to education, and all the, whether it is Goal 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and so on, they're all related to different aspects of education. But the underlying value is that at every stage, irrespective of where you stand, learning is continuous process and learning is taking place. And therefore, to make sure that we are able to develop systems which cater to this lifelong learning, this understanding of lifelong learning is very important. Any questions on this? Do you agree with this, that lifelong learning is important?
Yes, we do. I do.
Yes, ma'am. I do, ma'am.
Yes, I do.
And we are all live examples of lifelong learning. I'm myself pursuing a couple of courses, because, and so are you all pursuing courses. Maybe there is a continuous change which is required for all of us to understand that learning is a continuous process. Today, nobody in the 21st century can successfully live their lives unless they understand that learning has to be a continuous process. Okay. When we talk about learning, then at the same time, we are also talking about the teacher. So if we are talking about learning as a lifelong activity, then what is the role of the teacher in that? How important is instruction? We spoke about learning and instruction. How important is the instruction or the role of the teacher in that? Do you think that the teacher is required, or is the teacher redundant? Do you think that there is a need for an instruction of events, or can learning takes place without any kind of such an arrangement of events? I'm putting these questions for you so that the distinction between learning and instruction, and the fact that that many of you are teachers, is is just an act of reflection. There is no right or wrong to it. But these are at this level to reflect upon them. How important is the role of the teacher? You could say that the role of a teacher depends upon the level at which learning is taking place. Maybe for a child in a primary class, the role of the teacher is very, very important. I don't know, you may agree with me or not. Yes, Mr. Moses, you want to respond to that?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Actually, I believe that the role of teacher is critical in learning because though learning may take place without a guide, the teacher serves as a guide in the learning process.
Okay.
So without a teacher guiding the learners on what they are to learn, sometimes they may go off point.
Okay.
And they may end up making a lot of mistakes before eventually learning what they ought to learn. So, but when there is a teacher who has the curriculum, who has the understanding of what the students are to learn per time, then it will easily guide them into learning the important part of the curriculum, and they will not spend more time wasted in doing other things. So I believe the teacher is very, very critical in the learning process as a guide.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Zebidi Konda.
Yes, I think the role of the teacher, the importance depends on the type of education learning that is taking place. Like self-learning, there are some of the things that we learn without even the presence of the teacher. And maybe if we talk of classroom learning, that's where the role of the teacher becomes very, very much important. But when it is just learning in general, the teacher sometimes is not even required, but learning can also.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you have that's a perspective that you have, which is, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I can see one more hand I saw, Miss Turiyabi McLean. I'm trying to pronounce your name correctly. Was your hand up, or is it just from the previous?
It is from the previous.
Okay, you need to put it down then. Okay, anyone else? I'm very happy to see that your responses are yes, Morris. Yes.
Thank you very much, Rolf. Now, why are we restricting ourselves to a teacher, not a counselor? Because we are more of the teacher, What of the counselor?
The counselor?
Thank you.
Counselor is also a teacher only. A counselor is also a teacher.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, I can see Abbas Umar Usman. Yes, Mr. Usman. Mr. Usman, you want to say something? Anyone else?
Okay, so I believe we cannot erase the importance of a teacher in the learning space. It is the teacher that will draw up the curriculum for the student to learn. It is the teacher that will make appropriate assessment in order to assess what the student has learned. So regardless of what method of learning we use, the teachers cannot be overemphasized. They are needed in the learning process and in the learning experience. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is also a view which is, that's also a view that is important. At sometimes you need a teacher also. So basically here, I'm going to stop here because the today's task was to talk about learning and instruction, and to understand the difference between learning and instruction, and to also, since this was first class, to also get to know you all a little bit, and to know you better, so that we can then move ahead. This was a slightly to be able to understand what you want. And I'd also like to ask you, because I will see you next Tuesday. So is there yes, Mr. Abbas, are you raising your hand? Okay. So I would like to ask you, because I would like to take up the theories of learning next Tuesday when I take your class, behavioralism, and maybe we might take the two theories, depending on how much time we are able to finish. The three will be a bit much, but maybe two theories of behavioralism and cognitism we can take block one, because there are 5 blocks, and we will have to do that. Yes. So what is Mr. Moses, what are you asking?
Madam, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Moses. Is that Mr. Moses?
Mr. Morris.
Mr. Morris. Yes, Mr. Morris.
Yes, I want to know what is the pass percentage for this course?
Pass percentage.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a professional course which is there, Masters in Distance Education, Postgraduate Diploma, and I think we have 5 grades, level of grades in IGNOU, A, B, C, D, E. So since this is a professional course, you must attain at least a C grade to be able to pass. You can get a D grade in your assignments, but the weightage is such that you have 25% marks, grades which are given for your assignment, and you have 75% which is given for the term end examination. So therefore, since I'm the program coordinator, I can talk about the program. This is the program. So I would advise that you must write your assignments well, so that you get at least an A grade in your assignment, right? Because that is something which you are seeing from your course books. Your books are in front of you. You can write a good assignment. But if you get a good A grade in your assignment, then 25% of your work is done, right? Then, of course, the next part of it is going to be the 75%, which will come at the end of the examination, which is in June 23. Okay. In other courses which are, don't get confused, because in other courses which are of some other programs, maybe a D is also pass. But these two courses, MA in Distance Education and Postgraduate Diploma in Distance Education, you have to get a minimum of C grade. All right. Yes, somebody else also raised a hand. What was that? Yes, Mr. Morris.
Thank you very much for that answer, madam. Then the other question is,
yes.
The other question is, when we are writing the assignment, should we quote other scholars, or I don't know, because some people were saying, since the word length is 250 to 300, then others is it 800. Should we quote in our assignments other scholars?
You must maintain the word limit, because these assignments, the reason why assignments are given, because it is a part of the formative assessment, right? So we don't expect you to write a thesis in that. We expect you to write 300 words, because the pattern is such that you will, most of the assignments have 2 long answers and 4 short answers or 3 short answers. So if you maintain the word, because remember, it's more difficult to write a short answer than a long answer. if in 300 or 400 words, whatever the word limit is, you are able to convey your thoughts and put everything, you've crossed the bridge. That's how it should be. Okay. Anyone else? Let me just look at the. Yes,
Yes,
Mr. Moses.
ma.
Yes, Mr. Moses.
Yes, ma. I wanted to solicit if it is possible, if the slide can be made available to us.
Yes. Not just, you don't have to bother about the slide. You will get, when you on your LMS, this entire recording will be uploaded. All right.
Okay, ma.
So every
Yes,
maybe by tomorrow, whatever we are talking just now will be uploaded on the LMS. You can watch it at your leisure. The slides will also be there because they're part of the recording, and my conversation with you will also be there. All right.
It's all right, man. Thank you, man.
Okay. Yes, Zebidi.
Yes, ma'am. I think maybe last from me. I need the guidance on the studying of the materials. When I go on the LMS, there are a lot of things that needs to be covered. Should we read everything that is on the LMS, for example, in this course, or maybe we concentrate very much on your presentations?
I think you'll have to read everything, because you see these presentations are only 2 hours, and that too once a week. So you will have to read everything, and it's not much. It's 22 units. In each course there are between 22 and 25. So I am afraid you'll have to read them all.
Okay, thanks. No, sure do that, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm sorry about it, but you'll have to read them all. Yes, Mr. Haruna.
Yes, ma'am. My question is that how many marks allocated to the assignment and how many marks allocated?
How many marks?
Allocated for the assignment.
25-75 is the ratio. But we don't have is the ratio, but we do not have marks. We have a letter grade, A, B, C, D. As I said earlier, you must get a minimum of C in order to pass. Okay. Yes, yes, Miss McLean.
Thank you, madam.
Yes.
I remember sometime in induction, we were told that if you're doing masters, you do examinations. Is it once in December?
No, masters, as I said earlier on also, that the masters, the PG diploma is the first year of the masters. You see, what happens is that for any reason, we have students who want to do just a diploma. They don't want to do the masters, right? So the way the course is divided, and because it is a flexible course, so the first year is, you can enroll for a first year, which is diploma. You can also enroll for a master's, which is first year and second year. But the two programs are the same, which is why in the chat box, when someone, I don't know who it was, but someone said, can we ask questions? We are enrolled in the masters. For us, there is no difference between the masters first year and the PG diploma. Both programs are the same, and our students that is why we are taking the counseling for PGDDE OL as well as masters MEDE OL first year together, because it's the same course, same examination. There is no difference.
All right, thanks, ma'am.
And to add on to your question, the examination for this will be somewhere in, as of now, as I understand it. I'm not the authority to talk about the date of the examination, but the programs are, the examinations are in June and December. And what I have been told is that your examination will be in June 23. Okay. So you have to start studying very quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
We are there to help you. We are there. And that is why you have the counseling schedule, which is there with you. So don't worry, whatever support you need, you will get that. Okay. Yes, who is Educate SMS? I don't know your name, sir.
Yeah. Is it possible to have an extension for our assignments? We talked about this during the induction. Is it possible for an extension?
I don't know as of now. But I don't know. We'll see what we can do about it. But I would suggest that you start writing out your assignment. I will check about the date subsequently. But at least as you go along, try to finish. It's not that much. It's 800 plus 800, 1600, and maybe another another 1,000 words. So that is why when Mr. Morris said that, can I write long assignments? No, do not write long, because you have a word limit which is reasonable, and you can complete it in that. We don't want you to write a very long assignment. That's a problem for you. No, not required. Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Haruna, do you want to ask me something?
Hello, ma. Hello, ma.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I asked a question, but unfortunately I have interruption, so I didn't hear what.
Okay. All right. So you can put your put your hand down. Mr. Moses, you've asked a question. Ms. McLean, you've asked a question. Anyone else?
Hello, ma. Hello, ma.
Yes.
Hello, ma.
Anyone else?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Moses.
Actually, from the conversation, it seems that there is an assignment that has been given.
No, I didn't understand that.
I don't know. I mean, from the recent conversation now. So it's like there is an assignment that has been given. I'm not quite aware of that assignment, so I need clarity on that. And if it was so that an assignment has been given, what is the mode of submitting the assignment? How do we submit it? Is it through email or through what?
So I'll tell you. I will explain to you. The LMS is the way in which you communicate. We will communicate with you, and you will communicate with us, right? In that, if you go to the LMS, there is a section which will say assignments. Just now, the assignments are still in the process of being uploaded, right? So you will have 5 assignments of each course, 1 assignment. Then you will download those assignments. You will write them out, type them out, handwrite them. That is up to you. Then you will upload those on the LMS. Through the LMS, we will check them. Your teachers will check them on the LMS. All right. So no email. Everything has to come through the LMS.
Okay, ma'am.
All right.
It's all right, ma'am.
All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can close for the day.
Just appreciation, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your presentation.
Thank you. I'm happy to, if there are any questions, you can send us a message also through the message box, which is on the LMS. You can send that also. No, we will respond on that. And let me also tell you that each course coordinator has the LMS is for each course. So you have to see all the courses and accordingly write to that. If you want to write to me, you will go to the 412 LMS. If you want to write to yesterday's speaker, Dr. Ali Asgar, you will write 411. So each of us is separately holding our LMS. All right. Thank you for your kind comments. I hope that you found the class useful, and you are most welcome to ask me any questions through the LMS. I will respond to them. I am also with Dr. Ali Asghar. I am the program coordinator. So besides 412, which is the course that I teach, I am also the program coordinator. So you are most welcome to speak to me. And before we close the class, I would like all of you to put on your cameras so that I can take one class photo of ours for today's session, and we can have our brightest smiles. Please put on your cameras. Yes, and who's this? Because we like to. At last, I can see Miss McLean. Okay, smile, please. We normally put all these up on our website also to show our class that this is our class. Which is there. Let me see if I can get a bigger tile on it. I'm just. Okay, now we can smile, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for today's class, and thank you for your patience. See you next week. On next Tuesday, I will see you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You